Hello and welcome to another live stream. My name is Shane Olson and today we're going to be sculpting this Maleficent by the amazing Chrissy Zulo. And this is part 2 of the series we started last week. We're sculpting this in Nomad Sculpt version 1.78, I believe. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. We're just going to kind of continue on with what we had started last week. Please let me know if you can hear me okay. And I wanted to adjust these horns a little bit. Hey, what's up, Neil? And just kind of pull these back in space so they kind of aim a little more backwards. Hey, Jazzy. Hey, Arn. How are you guys doing? Okay, so if you recall, last week I kind of ended on this note right here. And I wanted to continue trying to figure out the appeal of this character. Because I'm not quite happy with how it's turning out yet. And I want to merge the lower lips into the head. So I'm going to do that right now. Underneath this selection, there's this select brush, and I can basically draw a lasso around multiple objects, and then they become selected. If you look in this hierarchy list, you can see lips lower and mesh, they're both selected. Then what I can do, there's this new utility inside of Nomad called Boolean, and you can both Boolean it together or Boolean it what is it called? You can subtract, like a Boolean subtract. Hey, Johnny, welcome. So it's really, really nice. That means you don't have to voxel remesh. If you're used to ZBrush, it's kind of like remesh by union. So I'm going to hit Boolean right here. And you can see there's voxel merge. Sorry. What did I hit? Okay, let me undo that. Looks like I accidentally selected something else. Let's select these two again. Okay. Now, under Boolean, I'm not going to point to it because apparently it didn't like that. But you can see there's voxel merge and there's Boolean. Okay. So I'm just going to hit Boolean. And it's just going to just connect those two objects together just like remesh by union would. And so if we look at the stitching of it, you can see how these two objects are now stitched together. And we can go about sculpting on them and getting rid of the seam that it creates. Okay, so I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to use dynamic topology. Turn that on. And what's nice about Nomad is the dynamic topology is tied to the voxel remesh settings that you've already set, so you don't really have to change them that much. They're already there. So this number 293 that it already has right here, this number is coming from where the object was previously voxel remeshed. So I'm just going to use smooth and just try and smooth it out and see what it does. So let's look at the wireframe. You can see that it's just kind of flood filling this area with new geometry while it's smoothing, which is super nice. But you can see it's the triangles and the quads that it's creating are the same shape and size as the ones that were there previously. So that's pretty nice that way. I like it a lot. It reduces one step, you know, from me having to do something. Okay, so let's see. I wanted to put some eyelids in here, some lower eyelids. And you can see I think in between sessions, I cranked up the shininess of these eyeballs here. And you can see the reflection in the eyes. But anyway, I wanted to kind of go through here and use crease. It's called crease. And what I like to do is put my hand on the side of my Sketchboard Pro is what I'm using. And so what I'll do is I'll slide the image or the sculpt over to my hand over here. So then I don't have to put my hand on the screen. And I'm going to turn on subtraction so it actually pulls the crease up towards me, and turn down the intensity. And just kind of run. It's a little too strong still. Such a great tip. I was thinking you would have to remess the whole thing to remove the stitching. Nope, you don't have to. It's, yeah, the dynamic topology inside of Nomad is really well done. It feels right, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to do that one more time. Just going to pull it. Just going really slow along here. Okay. Now just to kind of seat those eyes and give it a bit of a shelf for the light to catch. And make it look like the eyes are seated into the head like that. It's really nice that way. Okay. Now, another thing is I'm not a fan of is how much space there is between the upper eyebrow and where the cowl starts. I feel like it's not close enough, and I'm trying to decide if the head is just too big, or if the cowling just needs to come down. It's kind of a tricky read. So I'm actually going to go into the image and crank the opacity. Well, I'm going to turn up the overlay, actually. And you can overlay the image over the top of your model. And just kind of check my proportions. Let's do it. Let's change it even more. I'm going to turn the opacity down, overlay up. Maybe more. Okay, that's probably too much. I went the wrong way. There we go. Okay. Just a little bit. And perspective is turned on. Okay. I can see where I need to change. So her face is too long. See how far down the chin is? And then the brow needs to come out more, and the actual brow, the purple part. There's two sides to her face. One is really high and one's low because she's in an expression. And I can break symmetry if I want to, but I'm not quite ready. And then see how far back that cowl goes. It's quite a bit higher. So I'm actually going to grab that cowl right now and pull the back of her head up, even though it's going to kind of make her head look weird. And with Nomad, the move brush is very, what do I want to say? Kind of marshmallowy. So turn the intensity down to about half, which percentage-wise is not half. It's about 30%, but the actual slider is set to about half. And then the move brush will feel better if you do that. And then it looks like the horns themselves are not where they need to be. So I'm just going to grow those a bit. I'm just going to pull them up in space to give me a better idea of where they should be. Okay. That's a bit better. It's given me, I accidentally tapped this circle right here and made it black, which makes the edge sharp, which made it have kind of a pinch. Looked more like a leg. That was pretty funny. Okay. And once again, I thank you guys for watching me today. I haven't been streaming on my channel too much recently, or at all. I'm just getting started. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do much live streaming or if I just want to record videos and put those out, you know, pre-recorded videos like most YouTube videos are, you know. Still, I know, right? I know. It could benefit from those curves quite a bit. They're so nice. Okay, and I want to shrink this head a little bit, maybe not like that. Her chin is so funky. Okay, and I wanted to show you guys some tips and tricks about like some symmetry. Because somebody in the Nomad Discord group was having problems with symmetry. And symmetry in Nomad is unlike symmetry in any other program I've ever seen. So let me change the overlay back down, the opacity. Opposite. Like that. Okay, there we go. All right. So let me save this. And I just want to kind of talk to you about symmetry a little bit. So I'm going to do a new scene. And then we'll go back to Maleficent here in a minute. Okay? So the way symmetry works, there's mirroring and there's symmetry. It's two different things. Okay? So symmetry is symmetry across an object. And if you go, this is just a sphere, and you can't, the only way you can tell if you have symmetry on right now is see those two little dots? There's one on each side. So if I grab the move brush, I can pull these away from each other in symmetry. This is across the world, okay? This is what you expect. But how do you tell where your symmetry line is? There's a grid, so you can go to here and turn on, make sure grid, it's this button right here. Make sure it's down on your user interface down here, and you can turn it on. And then you can see the grid, and you can make sure your object is snapped to the center of the world. Blender has curves kind of like it, a little bit. Not quite as intuitive, but they're pretty nice. It's a curve lofted along a curve, basically. And if you get I have a plugin, an official 3D Character Workshop plugin. If you go to 3D Character Workshop /store, that's where you can see it. It's kind of hidden. But my plugin comes with a whole bunch of hair strands that are set up that way. It's set up as a curve lofted along a curve. So if you're interested in that. But yeah, it's fairly similar. Okay, so you can also go up to this symmetry menu up here. See this where I'm pointing? And I'm going to turn this on, and you can see the different planes that you can choose from. By default, X is turned on. Okay, it does have radial symmetry, and you can crank the radial up, and it will, so let me see if you can see the Z. Okay, can you see that little blue ring showing up? And so this is being mirrored radially 6 times. So if I now use my move brush, you can see I get radial symmetry, okay? Which is super nice, that's where you find it. But what I was gonna show you was, there's the method right here, which is local and world, but since this is centered to the world, it's using local in the middle of the world axis, I guess. Okay, and this is where you can, if you're used to doing mirror and weld over in ZBrush, this is like that. So you can mirror from left to right or right to left. Hey, what's up, Mark? And you can also mirror, like flip the object right here. You can reset the center of the object or the orientation of the object. But this is what I wanted to show you, is show plane and show line. Now plane doesn't, I don't really know what that does. I can never see what it does there. But the very, very bottom you can see you can edit the gizmo, which essentially edits the symmetry of the object. So if I turn this on, it gives me a gizmo, and I can move that center around, and you can see the symmetry line moving around with it. So basically, that gives you a center point to put wherever the heck you want. Okay, I don't want to do that, but I just want to show you it's there. Okay, now, so that's all about symmetry for the object. So that's like internal symmetry. And I want to show you something. Well, we'll go back to object symmetry because I'm going to show you some mirroring stuff. and how symmetry can work even though your objects are mirrored. It's super cool, and it makes it so you can pose a character with symmetry asymmetrically. I know that sounds crazy, but here we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this sphere and we're going to insert a new sphere into it. So I'm going to use this insert object. We're going to grab a sphere and we'll just put it right here. Let me turn that grid off. We're done with the grid for a minute. I'm going to leave the symmetry plane turned on so you can actually see what it's doing. Okay, so when you insert an object, you can see this mirror up here. I'm going to click it, and now you have the object that is mirrored. But unlike ZBrush, this is an instance, okay? Which means that it's just a ghost copy. It's not real. If I now go to Gizmo, decided to give ZBrush a try, and so far I'm liking it, but I still downloaded the Blender interface just in case. Nice. Okay. Yeah, it's completely up to you what you want to use. It all works wherever you want to go. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the gizmo and stretch this sphere out, and I can rotate it and kind of put it into place. If this was kind of a pelvis and upper legs, let's pretend that's what's going on here. Okay, we can just kind of squish this pelvis down a little bit, tilt it forward, and kind of put it into place here. Okay, and when you want to work on the left-hand side or the character's right-hand side, you can click it with your finger, and it will temporarily highlight a pink, and then it will show you the symmetry line. It'll show you where it's at. Okay, so what this line means, it has symmetry turned on, that's local symmetry, and it has mirroring turned on, which is, you know, it's mirroring the object across the center. So now if I go to get the move brush, let's validate this. Grab the move brush. Now watch what happens when I rotate this. Actually, I got to turn symmetry on, okay? So if I do this, see, it has symmetry across the center of that leg, and it's being mirrored. So you get kind of a twofer there. Okay, but if you don't want symmetry, you don't have to have it. But it's really nice if you're doing like fingers and stuff like that, something that, or a foot, and you want to have symmetry on the foot, but the foot is actually posed in a different way, you can do that, okay? So I'm going to go back to the gizmo here, and I'm going to clone it. There's a little clone button on the top left right here. So I'm going to tap that, drag it down, and it'll make a new object. Okay, now this clone is, if we look at the hierarchy, it's a new object, but that new object is also being mirrored under this mirrored repeater. So you have to think about this red mirror word as a repeater. It's basically repeating that object as an instance. And again, an instance is just a ghost copy of that object, okay? But any object you put underneath that repeater will get mirrored, okay? So see the pelvis, if I grab that up here and I put that underneath the mirror like this, now all of a sudden that has a twin, okay? Because it's being mirrored. But if I take that same sphere out of the mirrored repeater, it's no longer mirrored, and now it's off center. So what you can do to get any object back to center is, if you have the gizmo showing, there's a gizmo menu up here. See that? You can click on that, and you can see the translation, rotation, and scale where that object is in space. And you can click on the X translation and just type a 0 in there, and it will pop the object back to world center. Super easy peasy, okay? You should have blocked out the triangle man again. I totally could have, huh? Yeah, that's funny. I guess I could still. Okay, so what I was going to show you, though, is you can validate that mirrored repeater. Like, you can set it in stone, so to speak, but you can keep the instance objects as they are. And what that means is, so if I select this lower leg, and this is the difference with an instance versus not an instance. Okay, if I go to this trim brush, and then I select line, and I use this line like this, if I were to do this in ZBrush, that right leg would have gotten cut differently because it's part of the same object. But since this was a mirrored instance, it cut it how I expected it to cut, I guess, if that makes sense. So are you guys all with me? Have I lost anybody? You guys need some re-explaining on this? I know it's kind of a high concept. Okay, if I go back to the gizmo and I bend these legs back, here I'm going to pose this asymmetrically now so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so if I grab this mirrored object, cancel this, and I hit validate, which is right up here. Okay, I hit validate, and you can see it says join children. If I join them, it will make it behave more like ZBrush. If I say keep instances, it will do what I'm going to be showing you how to do here in a second. And if you click on uninstance, then it will just get rid of all objects will become single objects. Okay, so I'm going to hit yes on keep instances. So now the mirror is gone. It creates new groups. You can see it has these groups over here. Okay, and I can open these groups up, and I should name them properly. If I'm not going to go through and do that, but I should. I'll just do one. So like upper leg R or something. Okay, so you can go through and you name those so you know what's what. Okay, now I can put these in a hierarchy, which is super cool. So I have this lower leg one. I can put it underneath the upper leg one like this, and then I can actually grab this upper leg and parent it to the sphere, which is the pelvis. The group is just a group. This is just a group. I don't need it. I can get rid of it. Okay, it's just a container. It's just a holder. So I can do the same thing with the other leg, put it under here, and then parent that to the pelvis. And then get rid of this group. Okay, so now I have a hierarchy where these are the hips. I'll just help you guys out so you understand. Hips. And then this is upper leg right, lower leg right. Leg right. So there you go. And I could name the other two as well. But what I want to show you, this is the coolest thing. And this is kind of how I did the Space Girl that I did for Patreon, which I'm almost done with doing the voiceover for that. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, you can go check it out. Patreon, it's just my name over on Patreon. And I'm going to be putting up a 3-hour video where I do full voiceover walking you through how I modeled this Space Girl. Okay, so now check this out. I can rotate this upper leg. Okay, why aren't you working? Let's see here. This should be following along. Oh, you know what? I think I grabbed the wrong. I did. Okay. See, this is why you name your stuff, kids. Okay. I got it wrong. So I'm like, what is going on? So this would be, let's name them correctly. Okay, this is upper leg left. That's funny. And embarrassing. Okay. Upper leg left. This is upper leg right. Lower leg left. Okay. And this is lower leg right. Okay. So now you can see the hierarchy is messed up. So upper leg right, lower leg right. Let's put it underneath there. And then upper leg left and lower leg left. There we go. Now this should work correctly. There it goes. Okay. See how I kind of have an FK rig now? So I can pose this like this, grab this one, pose it like this. Whatever I want to do. This is the best pose you've ever seen. Okay. And now that I have this, you can see I still have this symmetry line. I don't have symmetry turned on for it, but it has symmetry if I turn it on, if I so choose to turn it on. Okay, so I'm going to hit symmetry. That's right over here. You kind of see it right there. And then I grab the move brush, and I can basically have symmetry here, here, and here in an asymmetrical pose, which blows my mind. It's really cool. And what that means is, say I wanted to make a piece of armor on this lower leg, I could use masking, and I could just come along here and do mask out a symmetrical thing like this and say, see how it's kind of too low? What's crazy is if I want to, let's clear this mask. I can voxel remesh this object because it's not high enough resolution to carry that mask. So I'm going to click on voxel, crank up the remeshing, hit remesh. It says I'm going to lose multi-resolution, which is okay. Now I have more geometry to work with. Let's run a smooth across it really quick because it kept the facets from the original. Okay, and then basically I could grab masking again. We'll do it symmetrically, and I can make this symmetrical piece of armor. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just making this up. And I can do unmask and make it sharper. Just kind of cut off this piece. I don't even know. I'm just making it up. Sure. Say this is some kind of weird thing. Okay, so now what I can do is I can extract this. So I'm going to go to the masking menu here, and you can adjust your shell thickness, and then you can extract it with a shell. You can see it right here, extract shell. Okay, so I'm going to hit that. It's going to give me this new object. But what's cool is it's on both legs. Look at that over there. Right? And I will need to put this new piece in the correct hierarchy. But here it is right here. I can select this leg and then clear the mask out now, because I'm done with it. And I can select this piece. I don't know where it is in the menu. Oh, this is called lower leg R extract. Okay. And what I need to do is I need to just put that underneath the lower leg like this, like in the hierarchy. And same with this one. Put it in the hierarchy. Okay. That way when I pose the leg, the new armor goes along for the ride. Okay? And so then I can grab this, and let's do the paintbrush, and we can just grab like a gray or something, turn the roughness down, the metalness up. So now it's kind of shiny metal. Come on. Shiny metal. There we go. I can turn off smooth shading as well. That's what's causing those artifacts. See, now it's really clean. Let's paint that in there like that. And we have a super clean, shiny metal key, whatever the heck that thing is. Right? So what's cool about this now is one is an instance of the other, right? So anything you do to one is going to be done to the other. So what that means is I can zoom in, say I want a round hole in the center of this, not a square hole. Okay, so I'm going to line up my camera as best as I can, and then I'll lock my camera down by clicking and holding on that that rotate sphere. See how now it's locked? I just held it with my finger till it showed me a lock. And now I can move it around and I can zoom, but I can no longer rotate. Okay, so now what I can do is grab trim and select an ellipse. I want it centered and I want a perfect circle, but I don't want to auto validate. So I'm going to turn that off because I want to put it exactly where I want it. And then I can draw a circle like this and put it perfectly how I want to have it. And then hit this green dot and it trims it. Okay, so now I'm going to unlock it so we can take a look at it. And go back to clay. We can take a look. It looks like it added some extra triangles that are kind of weird, but they're just material triangles. So we can just fill this again with paint. Maybe it masked it off. Make sure. Let's go mask and clear the mask. Make sure it didn't do anything weird. Back to paint and fill it. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with those guys. Maybe they are faces that's a little chunky there, but we can fix it. So let's take a look at the wireframe. It's quite low is probably why it was having troubles. So I'm going to undo that, undo trim, and then I'm going to voxel remesh this at a higher resolution. So I'm going to crank that resolution way up and choose keep sharp edges. I'm going to go even higher than that. Hit remesh. Okay, now it's very sharp, very high resolution. Okay, and I can turn that wireframe off. And once again, we'll get the camera just kind of locked in where we want it. Something like that. Lock in the view. And then grab trim again. We'll try it just one more time. And our circle is still there because we didn't auto-validate. So it kept the circle from before. And if I want to change the size of this circle now, I have to use my finger and the stylus to grow it and then move it. And say I kind of want it a little higher like this. Click on that green dot, trims it away, go back to the move brush, unlock the view, and look at that. Super clean, trimmed thing. This blows me away, you guys. It really does. And look at the other leg. It's the same thing in a different position. Hey, Tiago, does iPad with 8 gig of RAM work well with Nomad? Yes. Do I need to buy one with 16? No. I think 8 would be just fine. I mean, the more RAM, the more polygons you're going to be able to push. But honestly, a bigger CPU is going to help more. But this iPad is a 3rd gen iPad Pro. It's before the M chips. So if you get an M1 or an M2, you're going to be loving life with it. It runs on very slow kind of potato iPads. So you can buy a used one and it would work just fine. I would just recommend getting one with the version 2 pencil, not the one with the plug on the end, because it's kind of a pain to plug it in. The main selling point in Nomad is the symmetry stuff. I agree with you, Jazzy, but I also think it's got a lot of strong points, but it's missing a lot of the kind of bells and whistles that ZBrush has, of course. It's not really, you can use it as a professional tool, but it's not meant to be a professional tool, if that makes sense. But you can absolutely set stuff up here and push it over to ZBrush to finish up or whatever. They kind of work hand in hand very well. Or you can take a model from ZBrush and push it over here. So what I do is I set up iCloud on my PC, and then it's like a folder. It's like another drive, and I can just drop my meshes into my iCloud drive and then just wait for them to upload, and then I can access them from the iCloud drive on my iPad. And this iPad is just a Wi-Fi only. It doesn't have cell service or anything. So I just make sure I can access it and then download it and load it up in my Nomad, and then I can, continue to sculpt on it later. Like I could probably push up the the Sculpt I was messing with yesterday on the Maxon live stream. So anyway, yeah, this is crazy. Let me show you one more thing about the radial stuff, like the mirroring repeater stuff. It's crazy, and the layers are crazy, and the tube brush is really awesome. Okay, and then you can render it all real time. That's super cool. You can do that in Blender as well, but it just takes a little more effort to set up. But it's similar, right? Okay, so I'm just going to grab a new. And what I really this is super silly, right? But yeah, the Android tablets don't run it as well as Apple tablets, just so you know. It works well, but not as well. Okay. What I was just going to say is it's really fun to load up a different image. Like, let's see. I don't know why I have some of these in here, but like this one. And then I can just hit transform and then put it behind my scene. And then now it's a new environment. You know, it's a nice, this is a throwback way back to my 3D Tunes days. If you ever watch my Sculptress video on YouTube, I kind of have a similar background to this. I just wanted to try it out. But it gives you kind of a fun little painterly canvas back there so it's not like an ugly gradient or just a single color back there. It's just a nicer, more friendly environment. You can make warm colors, or you can even add an image that's a scene back there if you want, you know. Maybe like a sculpting studio or who knows what. It's just cool that you can do it. Okay, so let me show you. If I add a repeater to this, and you can add a repeater to any object or any collection of objects, okay? So I have this object. I'm going to add a repeater. You have an array, a curve, a radial, and a mirror, okay? So I'll add a mirror repeater. You can't really tell until you pull the sphere away from itself. So then you can see that there's an actual... I'm going to validate it. No, come on. Grab the sphere, not the mirror. Pull it apart like this. And now it has its twin there under the repeater. Okay. Use it on a Galaxy S9. It works just fine. Oh, nice. That's good to know. Okay. So you can change the repeater type anytime you want by clicking on the actual repeater right here. And then this menu right here is the repeater menu. So you can click on it and see there's these 4 different types. So I can click on array, and now I have an array of objects. And you can see that it now gives me these counts in the different directions. So I can crank up the count in the Y, I can crank it up in the Z, and now I have a whole bunch of objects, okay? And what's crazy is I can go into any of these objects. If I actually click the sphere, I can move it around. It's moving around everything. Or I can go into my move brush, and symmetry is turned on, right? And I can grab this and move it around symmetrically, and it's all being instanced and being arrayed, okay? And what's crazy about that, these are all instances, so they don't take up that much space in memory. So what that means is now I can nest a repeater within a repeater. So now we're going to get all nested on you. Okay, so I'm gonna add a radial repeater. Okay, so now you can see there's a radial repeater underneath the array. I actually want it to be different. I'm going to pull the radial out and put the array underneath, and then put that sphere underneath the array. Okay, so this is what we have now, is this radial, and it's got radial Y, and I can crank that up and down. Okay, And then I can also turn on X. Well, it looks like you have to pick one. You can't have several. So you can make it go around the X or whatever you want. And then I can grab the array while it's being radial repeated and change the counts on those. Whatever I want to do. It's pretty crazy. And then I can grab the, let me see. I think I can grab the gizmo of it and move the whole thing around. Okay, so I'm grabbing the gizmo, the center of this whole array repeater, and I'm moving it to wherever I want so I can make it look like different shapes and objects. Okay, which is super fun. And then even with this one, I don't want to go too crazy and crash my iPad, but I can add another repeater like this curve repeater and put the whole thing, yeah, it's starting to slow down. Okay. But I can put this whole thing on a curve and turn up the count on it. We'll just do 3. And then I can put this on a curve like this. Let me grab that array and turn the count down on the array. So it's just a couple. There we go. That's faster. Okay, so let's go back to the curve repeater. And now I can adjust the curve and I can add more counts along that curve. Is that wild? It's just so fun to play with. And then I can click into any one of these little, whatever these are, and grab the move brush or something, any of these brushes, and edit them, and it edits everything. It's like looking in a mirror that's looking in a mirror and you just see it forever. Crazy, right? Okay, anyway, that's the power of repeaters inside of Nomad. Super fun. Okay. Let's see. This is the space girl I was talking about earlier. Hey, Steven, how are you doing? Are you going to go full-blown comprehensive in Nomad? I would love to have a good reference to learn from if I bite the bullet and I get my iPad also. What's up? How you been? I've been great. Thanks for stopping by. So I go back and forth between Nomad. The reason I like Nomad a lot is because it's mobile and because it has the symmetry stuff and it has the tube. There's a really cool tube utility in here, and you can render on the fly, render on the go. So, excuse me, like real time, like Eevee in Blender. This is being rendered right now, and so I can move it around and I can sculpt on it. It's just really fun to have a model that you can see kind of the end result as you're working on it, right? So I modeled her in pose. You can see these bracelets she has on, these things right here. I modeled that on one arm, and it repeated it over onto the other side. So, hey Criticus, yeah, it'll be here after I'm done. Yeah, that bloom is great. And then I made this gun, and I made this gun in place. So sometimes in ZBrush I feel like I have to make it down on 0, 0 and then move it up to where it needs to be just so I can get the symmetry. But since this has really good local symmetry, I was able to, you can see the symmetry line right there. I was able to model it symmetrically but in place, which is super nice. And then again, I modeled her in pose, but I get symmetry. So if I grab one of her legs, I can have the move brush and see how it moves both knees. It's because it's an instance of itself over across the other side. And that's the beauty of it. And then again, these glasses, the transparency in these glasses are really nice. And the reflection in the eyes, all of that stuff. And these hairs I made with the tube brush. This is about as tubular of hair as you can get. But with the tube brush, you can really play with the profile and get whatever shape you want. Really cool. Does it support a kind of pose tool? No. Would you need to export a software choice? It's not Maxon here. Yeah, you can talk about anything you want. This is my channel. Yeah, so there's no pose tool, but you can set it up like an FK rig. So in a hierarchy. I just barely showed that if you want to watch it back. But as you can see, it's kind of like the, it's kind of like the outliner in Blender. I don't know if it's called an outliner, the scene setup thing. You know how you can do a parent-child relationship with your objects. And then if I grab this shoulders right here and see everything is parented to it, I believe if I grab this, everything else will go along for the ride. Yeah, see that? So this is being posed right here, and it's like, so I can pose it that way. Really like how the local symmetry should be. You even showed how you can change that manually if you want. Yep, absolutely. And if you have your pivots set up correctly, it's essentially like making an FK rig. So for this, see, I put the pivot in this elbow. So then when I rotate the arm, it could be a little better, but you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Here, if I push this over where it should be, and then I unlock this gizmo and I put this where it should be, then I can rotate this arm. Yeah. I was actually working on, I'm still working on it, but I'm still working on kind of a base model for a toy, like a posable toy. So let me open up that so you can see it. I need to finish it, but this one right here. Okay, so I was doing ball and socket testing with this one because you can set it up like a so these spheres are actually spinning inside of there when I'm posing those legs. I was trying to do some different knee articulation. Is setting the origin pivot easy? Oh yeah, it's as easy as unlocking it, moving it, or centering it, or whatever you want to do. I can hit center, and it centers it in the middle of that sphere, and then just locking it back up, and now it's set. So I can unlock it, I can align it to the world if I want, and now it's aligned to the world, and now I can do that. So I don't think I've set up the hierarchy for the arms yet on this one. But I'm trying to do like just spherical joints that I can pose this character up with. Super cool. I purchased Nomad for my iPad. I have not yet fully embraced it. How does it compare to ZBrush? So it's not really in this, well, I want to say it's not really in the same category as ZBrush, but it kind of is. It's digital sculpting for sure, and you can do full characters in it. So for example, I did this one 100% in Nomad on the road. So that's the thing, is it's on my iPad, so I can take it wherever the heck I want to go. So I did most of this while I was sitting in my car waiting for my daughter. Hey, what's up, Matt? How are you doing, man? Hello. Matthew Armstrong, everybody. He's a good friend of mine. Okay, so anyway, it was just really nice to be able to like take this into coffee shops and in my car and just wherever I wanted to be at the time. And then I was able to work on it, sculpt on it not sitting at my desk. And I can also sit up at my couch, watch TV with my family while I'm sculpting too. So you're not tethered to anything. But this is asymmetrically posed. And yeah, I did this whole thing here. And I did all the coloring here. You can see her eyes are shiny. I set all that up in here. So it's fun. I have to say it's fun because since you can render it real time and play and sculpt on it in real time, it just makes it really fun, right? So what I could say is if you're going to be professionally productive with it, you could take it so far and then probably take it back to ZBrush and finish it up, and then but you could totally do something in here and 3D print this for a toy or something like that, or a collectible. You could push it as far as that goes inside of here, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles and decades of programming that ZBrush has. So this is being developed by one person, and it's it's an awesome guy from France. He's super, super nice, and he's very susceptible to feedback. He really wants to hear about crashes and things like that, and where he can improve it. He's mostly in the Discord channel for Nomad. I'm over there, and I try and report bugs and stuff. He doesn't like to hear requests too much, just because he's so busy with bugs and things like that. So try and keep that at a minimum. But yeah, it's really cool. So I've had a lot of fun bringing some of my ZBrush characters over to Nomad and sculpting on it, like this little snail guy and his little ant kid. Let me turn this line off. Does it export well for print? It does, yeah. And it does some good Boolean operations. It's not as good as like live Boolean at all, but it's really good. I'm just going to turn on smooth shading. But you can see how it's a decent render. It's not like Redshift or Keyshot or something like. It's not a ray trace renderer, but it's just as good as say like Eevee, or I don't think this is as good as Marmoset, but it's good enough, I feel like I could put this in my portfolio. It's good enough for that. Let me see. I even brought sirloin over here. Check this out. So I don't know what kind of anomalies are happening in his armor, but yeah, it turned out pretty good. And I stamped the chainmail on here because I really want to print him out. But yeah, here's sirloin. And you can see this is tanking my iPad. See these red numbers over here? My iPad's going, whoa, that's too much. Nomad have a cloud version. Yeah, so there is a web version that you can play with. So the web version is his test bed. So it's very buggy and it crashes and it's on a website. So, but you can play with it and try and get used to how it works. And he said he wants to do a PC version before the end of the year. So that's kind of cool to look forward to. Here's another one I did. I'm just showing you what's possible in here. Oh, I crashed it. Okay. Yeah, I think it keeps some in memory. Look at how fast it recovers from a crash, though. It's like ba-boom. It's back. Ba-boom. All right, let me load this. Okay. So this is a Luigi Lucarelli, another one. But what's nice about this is I was able to... She's got... these glasses have lenses. So see how they have shine to them? That's something you can't really get in ZBrush. You can only see glass if you render. But this is fully posed and everything inside of here. I made this little zipper with the trim tools, metallic material. I made the little handles of the backpack with the tube brush. I I even like to block out my characters with um, with the tube brush. So instead of using primitive objects like spheres and things, you can use the tube brush because it's very easy to use. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. If he does a PC version allows access for plugins, people will fill in all the blank. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. That's better than Eevee's glass materials. Is it? So I don't think Maxon's going to buy it because they have Forger. So Forger is, well, I have it on here. Let me see. Forger. So Maxon purchased Forger from a company that already existed, and it looks like this. It's pretty nice. It has symmetry and stuff. It's just not as user friendly. Like I look at this and I don't know what to do really. Like I don't know where I see my little brushes over here, and this is kind of similar, the brush size and the strength. And I can pull this around. It feels similar, and this actually has Z remesher built into it, which is pretty nice. But it's not, the interface isn't quite as intuitive, and it doesn't have that nice tube brush. It doesn't have like the rendering capabilities, you know. I think they're working on it, which I mean, it's just a win for us, right? As users, competition is great. You know, Coke and Pepsi, whatever, competition is great. So if they're going to push on each other and like trying to outdo each other, that's what we want. So I do want to get in here a little more and try different things. But since this is owned by Maxon and ZBrush is owned by Maxon and Sculptress, the original Sculptress is owned by Maxon, they have a suite of things they can dip into and possibly add to this thing, right? So I don't know what the future holds for this program or what Maxon's plans are, but I know they are interested in mobile stuff for sure. So could you bring in a Nomad for Z Remesh? Oh yeah, absolutely. Like you can have both. You can have Forger and Nomad and just save out an object out of Nomad, bring it in here, Z remesh it, and push it back. You know, there's nothing to say that you can't do that. It's not like, you know, there's always these software wars, and it's like, well, why not just use all of them? There doesn't have to be war, you know, just use them all. So I never understood, other than the cost, I never understood, you know, why people are like, well, this is better than this. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I do want to play with Forger a little bit more because they are actively developing it. Okay, yeah, this glass, see, check it out. Oh, here, let me show you something. This was a lamp that I made that I was trying out. So this also has post-processing. So not only does it have PBR rendering, but it has post-processing, which is a lot like the filters in ZBrush, where after you render, you can hit a filter and then do a bunch of things to it. But this is in real time, so you can actually see the post-processing as you move it around. So this one has a couple lights in there. Let me dissect it for you. So these handles are square tubes. And this handle right here is a square tube. And this also has a lathe tool in it. When I say this, I mean Nomad. Nomad has a lathe tool, you can see. So I can click on here and you can see the curve that makes up this lathe. And I can actually grab it and change what the shape of it is. I can round it out, you know, it's a lathe. It's like let's see. Does Nomad record the screen like Procreate? Delia, it does not, but you can just, Jerome, I was just thinking about that as I was saying it. Yeah, you can't learn, you only have so much space in your head. And at my age, my head is full. And I always joke with my wife, I always say it's full song lyrics and movie quotes, so nothing else fits in there. But anyway, you can see that you can it works like a pottery wheel. You know, you can just change the profile and make it work, which is really nice. And this down here is also another what's it called? Lathe, right? So it's like turning a stool leg on a lathe. Just match the profile and it'll give it to you. But this post-processing is underneath this camera lens right here. And if you scroll down, you can see what it has. It has global illumination, reflection, this ambient occlusion. I have that turned on. It doesn't do much in this scene because it's being so well lit. But it has bloom. If I turn the bloom off, you can really see what it's doing to this scene right here. Okay. And then there's curvature, which is kind of like the curvature inside of Substance Painter, where it makes the peaks have one color and the valleys have another color, which is really nice. So, so on here, the peaks are being kind of lit up with this tan, this beige color on the edges, just to give it that more of a metal look. And then the valleys are having this maroon color. So in the very, very deepest of crevices, it's being colored maroon as a kind of a cartoony outline, which is really nice. And then you have these other ones that I don't really use too much, but you can change it to like pixel art if you want to. Scan line render. Yeah, there's just different things that you can play with. So that all happens, and you can save your own sets right here. So if you have a setting that you like, you can save it for later and use it for later projects. But yeah, this lamp. So if you want to learn how to use the lathe, I can show you that. But this is just a sphere that has a glass material assigned to it. If I hide this, you can see I actually made a little wick in there, and I made there's a couple lights in there lighting this whole thing up, but it's pretty fun. Really would like to try that tube brush and sculpt and do a Luffy from One Piece. That would be awesome. Immediately thought of that when you brought it up. Yeah. Okay, so I can show you that tube brush really quick if you want to see it. So I just like playing around and sharing this stuff. So, okay. So tube brush, if you go here, it's just right here. Hey, what's up, Peter? Yeah, I've been trying to do, I want to do live streaming on Maxon's channel on Mondays and then my own channel on Tuesdays at the same time. Can you still only have 3 lights? Yeah, well, 3 lights plus HDR image, which an HDR image can essentially light your whole scene by itself. But then I think it's 4 lights, actually, not 3. I think it's 4. I could be wrong, though. Okay, so tube brush, you have 2 options. You have either a curve or a path, okay? And if I choose this path, that's the one I like the most because it gives me, well, the curve is just draw out a tube like this, okay? And it's really fast. You can even do your name or whatever. Whoops. Yeah. So, but a path is more controlled. It's dot by dot, like this. And it is, thanks, man. It is very controlled, and it is the line is screen space until it's world space. So while you draw it, it's floating on your screen. It's stuck to your screen. So I can rotate my object behind it and it doesn't change anything. Okay, that's what screen space means. It's tied to the screen. Now, when I hit this green dot right here, all of a sudden it makes a tube, and now it's turned into world space, which means it's stuck to the world and it's stuck to the sphere. Okay, and if I want to mirror it, I can click on mirror. And what that does, anytime you push mirror up in this menu right here, it's just going to add that mirror into your hierarchy list right there as a repeater. Okay, so now with this tube brush, I love this tube brush so much. It's so fun. I can grab this little orange dot and I can increase or decrease the volume of the tube, okay, the radius. And if you look up here, you can see it says radius, and it has these 3 little ticks, okay? So that means you can push it 3 different times. So the first time, by default, it only has 1, and it will change the entire radius of the whole tube. If I click it a second time, it gives me 1 on the other end, so now I can make horns and stuff like that. That's how I made the horn on Maleficent. If I click it a third time, it puts 1 on every dot. So if I had another dot here, it would put 1 here and 1 here. And so you can see you can get some really funky shapes. And then what's nice about this is you can block out arms and legs and all sorts of stuff with it, right? You can't really adjust the cap too much, but you can also add a hole through the whole thing. See, it's got a hole now. You can make a trumpet, or an alien ear or something like that. It's really, and you can click on hole twice, and what that does is it gives you a dot at either end, so you can make one end have a narrow radius and the other end have a large radius. If you want to do that, turn hole off. And then what's recently added is you can adjust the profile. This is more like Blender hair, if you want like lofted curve along a curve. So if you click on profile, it gives you this window. I'm going to pin it and kind of park it over here. I'm going to turn off smooth shading so you can see how clean it really is. And by default, it gives you a square and it has snapping turned on. And I can start to adjust these dots, and you can see that it changes the shape of the profile on the fly. Okay, and just like any other curve inside of Nomad, I can click on these dots and make them soft. So I can soften all of these dots if I want to, and then I can add a dot and like give it whatever profile shape that I want to, like this, like a celery stick. Or whatever. I can turn snapping off. I can also choose well, this is open or closed. You can open up this curve and then it will work well for like hair cards and stuff like that. But there's also a closed up here. And if I hit that, it's going to close the ring of it's going to loop the whole curve like this. Like if you want to make a bow or something like that, or shoelaces, you know, you can close off that curve. Okay, but I hope you can kind of start to see how powerful this is. And if you want to get rid of a dot, you just kind of drag it closer to a neighbor until it turns red, let it go, and then it'll disappear. But so I can take this and make it a thin kind of a band like this. Put a dot, bring that in. See how cool profile? It's pretty neat. Anyway, do you guys have any questions about the tube brush? There's also twist. So if you look next to radius, there's twist. So if I turn on twist, it gives me this pink dot now, and I can start to twist the whole thing on itself. So it twists it around the curve. So if I click on the second one, I'm gonna unclose that so you can get a better idea of it. Okay, I'm gonna hide the sphere as well so we can see it better. Okay, so I can twist one end of it. See that? And you can twist it a lot if you want, and make it like a candy, right? Or a noodle or something. Again, if I click it again, it gives me a twist on every curve, every dot. So it's really, really powerful. Very fun to play with. You can also change whether it's a B-spline or a Catmull-Rom spline. So Catmull-Rom kind of sticks to it a little more. Just a different algorithm. And my advice is don't validate it. When you're done, try not to validate it. Just leave it as it is. That way it stays editable. So it's non-destructive. If you validate it, then you can no longer adjust the dots. When you if you wonder when you should validate it or if you ever should, I would say don't if you can help it, but sometimes you need to, because if you ever want to sculpt on it, like the actual object, you can't use a brush and sculpt on it, and you can't like voxel remesh it or anything like that, or you can't do a gradiated color or any kind of detailed color work on it because it's being generated. So if you want to actually sculpt on it or paint on it, then I would validate it. And so you can validate it like this, and the whole thing goes away, and now you just have this object like this. And now you can see how it's got really low resolution. This is the resolution that it gave me. And since it's low resolution like this, I can use, Nomad has multi-res. So basically you can come into here and see it says multi-resolution. I can just subdivide this up a couple times just like in ZBrush. And now it's nice and smooth. And I can put a layer on it if I want to. So these are layers. The layer system inside of Nomad is super powerful. So I can add a layer, just right here, boom, add a layer. And then I can go switch over to my paintbrush, and we still have that metal, this metal material selected. I can paint on here as metal if I want to. See how it's like a shiny spot on here now? It's pretty funny. But like I could paint a stripe on here, or I could mask it off and paint on it. Let's just do a red erasing stripe with some roughness, maybe a little bit of shiny, and just kind of paint along here. And now it's on a layer. Looks like it painted through both sides. If you don't want to paint through both sides, you can click on filter underneath the brush settings, and it has this front facing vertex only right here. And that's like back face masking in ZBrush. You just turn that on, and then if I do this again, it's not the straightest. That's why I'd probably use a mask to do this, to get it straighter, but now it won't affect the back side. Just remember to turn it off when you're done if you don't want it. But now this is on a layer, so I can go to this layer. I can rename it, like red stripe or something that I would recognize. And now I can go up and down with it and apply it or not apply it if I want to. And what's great about these layers is I can add another one, and I'm going to put it, I can click and hold and drag and put it below the red stripe. Okay, now I'm using this layer, and I can change to a different color, like say a obnoxious blue, and then I can paint, and just like in Photoshop, it'll paint underneath the layer above it. Super nice. And these layers will also take on sculpting detail. Is it not duplicable? What are you talking about, Stephen? Is what not duplicatable? So again, another layer. Okay, I'll keep this one above, and then I'll use sculpting detail. Let's do a stamp. Stamp. And then I'm just going to pick an alpha. Like this is the chainmail left over from sirloin. I'll select that chainmail. And you can do both color and sculpt, but usually with layers, I'll either put color on, just only color on a layer, or only sculptural detail on a layer. I typically won't do both, just so it's a little more manageable and a little more organized. Oh, the tube before validation? Yeah, you can totally duplicate it. Yep, you can duplicate it, hide it, then you'll have a backup if you ever need to go back and adjust it. Yep, you totally can. So there's a stamp of chainmail. So what's interesting is this is in a layer, and now I can crank that layer of this up and down like this. Whoop. So again, if I wanted to add color to this stamp, I just click on this color and we can go like add some shiny metalness to it. Make it really shiny metal, maybe lighter like this. So when I click and drag it, it brings the color in with it. Is that crazy? And it's, again, it's not very restrictive. So what I mean by that is, and I don't mean I love ZBrush to death, but their layer system could use a little bit of work. And so, for example, when I do a layer inside of ZBrush, it's kind of stuck to the multi-resolution layer that I choose. So for right now, for example, I ran out of geometry. Like I need more geometry to make this chainmail look better. So I can go into multi-resolution, subdivide it one more time, and notice how it did not complain at me. It's still, the layers are still there and they're still working. And now I have more resolution to use for my chainmail. With no complaints from the layer department. See if I can just kind of smooth this out a little bit. And what's crazy is I can do things to the mesh that would otherwise be a no-no as well. Like I can trim this up and it will retain the layers. So if I go to the trim brush, okay, and I select, like say this rectangle, for example, and it does say multi-resolution will be lost, so it's going to voxel remesh this, but the layers will remain, okay? So if I go and cut this like this, it's going to take a minute. Look how clean that is. And the layers remain. Yeah, you can paint without sculpting. Okay, so let's take a look at the layers now. I wish it would, oh, with the chainmail, with the stamp, I'm not sure if you can just do a stamped color, or I believe so. I don't know, Peter. Right now it's like squarely in the, I wouldn't say squarely. I would say it's becoming a contender really quickly, like you said. That's why it's caught my attention. Just the mobility of it and just the accessibility of it, like how easy the user interface is to understand. That's huge for me, especially when I teach it. You know, people just get it for the most part. Not always, but for the most part. We have a couple folks in the shop and the Elements team using it regularly here. That's awesome, Peter. So Peter works at Lego, by the way. And if you saw, Jerome was in here earlier. He's from Pixar. And I did a couple workshops for Pixar teaching Nomad. And so it's people are interested in it for sure, and for serious reasons. So anyway, so look at this. If I go back to Move Brush and I show you these layers, the layers, I feel like a magician or something. Like the layers are still there, you know. So if I crank this down, look at this. Even though this mesh has been sliced, it's cut. And the red stripe, I can take the red stripe away and bring it back, or the blue stripe. I can take it away and bring it back. It's crazy. So it blows my mind. And I can voxel remesh at this point if I wanted to. That's voxel remesh is kind of like Dynamesh. I can it's interesting too, because it kept the red paint depth through that cut. That's interesting to me. Can't hurt to have it. Yeah, for sure. Apple give us an etched glass surface. So etched glass. Speaking of which, I use something called Paper-like, and it's a paper. It's a cover for my iPad. It's just a clear surface thing. Neil, would you mind finding that and I should post that in the link. Yeah, it's just called Paper-like. It's like a screen protector that feels like paper. Super nice. Hey, Babu, how you? How you? How are you? So anyway, I feel like it's still pretty much a hobbyist tool at the moment, but it's quickly gaining some ground as being a contender, something to use for professionals, for sure. Okay. Anyway, any questions about that? And I can also, oh, look at this. It gave me a negative on the chain underneath. That's funny. Crazy, crazy. Okay. I did this camel. This camel, if you want to watch me create this from start to finish, it's on my Patreon right now as well. So I recorded it and I in live real time and walk you through exactly how I make this. So it is sped up slightly, but and edited, but it's I don't skip anything. Okay. So what time is it? 1:20. Okay. What was I was going to show you guys something else. I cannot remember. I really like bringing over ZBrush models and messing around with them. I also made this guy in here. Using the trim brush, that's how I created this guy's hair. It's actually called a slice, or split, sorry. So if I have this guy's hair, and I grab the polygon tool, here, let's go to the lasso. If you want to ever reset the polygon tool, you can go to the lasso and come back again. Try to learn it online and see if maybe getting it for iPad would be good. I was in the hospital recently, so I got real life to catch up on first. Oh goodness. Well, I hope you're better. Hey, what's up, Tokvan? How you doing? I don't know that they fired him. I think he left. Maybe you know something I don't. I thought he left and created Cozy Blanket. Somebody asked if you can push this to Procreate, and the answer is yes. So I actually took my dinosaur. You have to have UVs, so you have to generate UVs. And that's good to hear, Stephen. That's great. Because in order to paint on an object in Procreate, you need UVs to paint on. So what I usually do is I use, speaking of Cozy Blanket, that's another app here on the iPad. It's just a retopology and UV app. But you can make UVs inside of here. You can generate some, just like you can generate UVs in ZBrush. Very similar. It's not like production quality UVs, but it's enough to push over there. I actually had this, let me show you the split tool really fast, and then I'll show you the dinosaur that I pushed over there. So basically you can do an object like this and make it super sharp and pointy, like a triangle. And then when you're ready, you just push the screen button and it slices it. Not Pablo. There was a new guy working on Sculpt mode for 2 years, and oh, are you kidding me? Well, yeah, well, there you go. Okay. Wonder what that was all about. So this is, see how clean that? It's so clean that you can't even see it. That split. Until you move it. Like a piece of the pie. Then you can see it. So then you can just smooth it out and make it round and look the same. Oh, goodness. Okay. So let me open up this dinosaur. So this dinosaur is one of the first things I ever made in Nomad because I wanted to play with the layers, and this one, so it still has a whole bunch of layers on it. Like the belly and the blue and See how it has sculptural detail too. Yeah. Anyway, I put some UVs on this guy, and then I pushed him over to Procreate. I don't know that I dare open Procreate. My daughter's been playing with it. Let me see. Okay, right. This is an image. There it is. So here it is in Procreate. I was just playing with, looks like a little kid painting on it, but yeah, you can just paint right on the surface of it. But yeah, this is, and then you get to use all Procreate's tools. It's pretty nice. Anyway, but I painted all this over here in Nomad. I didn't take it over, like even the gradient and everything. I painted here in Nomad. Okay. I think I'm gonna wrap this up pretty soon, but yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks on Nomad and get you excited about it and playing with it. And I need to, let me see. I'll show you this other dinosaur I made in here. I've made a couple dinosaurs. This guy, a lot of people like this one. And this one's 100% Nomad, so start to finish. It's being rendered. It has post effects going on, and it's not pinging my RAM. I have, hey, what's up, Max? I have, it also has some materials. I didn't talk to you about under here. There are some materials. So I talked to you about the transparency, but it also has subsurface scattering. So you can do subsurface scattering. So these little feathers, you can kind of, they're a little transparent, but they're also being subsurface scattered, which is nice. Same with the teeth, and that's why it kind of looks waxy a little bit. Yeah, that's the way it's just fun. It's really fun. And then there is, I did another dinosaur too. This guy. This one was a lot of fun. And I recorded him and did a YouTube video on how I made this guy. But he's got subsurface scattering going on too. You can see the shadows being rendered out here. And if you want to adjust the HDRI lighting, you can go to this the sunshine and go to the environment right here, and you can adjust the exposure, and you can adjust the rotation of the image by using your three fingers and going back and forth across the screen, and that will adjust your lighting. And three fingers up and down will actually adjust your brush size. That's a little tip. So thanks, Babu. I appreciate it. You had no idea you can paint in 3D with Procreate. Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's fairly new, maybe a year. You've been able to do it for a year, I want to say. But again, yeah, the name of the game is just fun. I have so many that I need to finish too. Like I started this guy, this Guido guy. Like I wonder if I could pull that off, and because I was looking at like his crazy brow, I could use a curve repeater. And then same with the hair on the top of his head. I could use an array with the tube brush and with the curve brush. I was just trying, and then his little hollow ears, I could use the tube brush with hole in it. Can you upload an HDRI? Absolutely. Yep. So that's what I've done here. So I have a whole bunch of HDR images here, including this studio light that I like a lot. Yeah, different lighting you can swap through. And what I like to do is, this is where you can add lights too. So if you click on lights right here, these are two different lights that I added to the scene. You can turn them off and on, like this rim light and this fill light. And with these lights, you get different types. You get a sunlight, a spotlight, a point light. You can change the color, the intensity. You can also lock, if it's a sunlight, you can go into these three dots and lock it to the camera right here. You can use shadow maps, either screen space or shadow maps. You can soften them. There's a whole bunch of things you can do with them. So yeah, just real-time stuff. Oh, you already have a collection? Yeah, you can just load them on in. Load them right up. And I did bring Kate in here. She looks really nice in here. So I put some subsurface scattering on her face and some you can see the HDR image reflecting in her eyeballs. And you can see all this hair. I could probably subdivide that hair one more time, but then give her this this shiny latex like suit. Yeah, super fun. This one's pushing up against the RAM, the memory. It's got 2.36 million vertices in here, and it's still doing just fine. And this, again, this is pre-M chip. Yeah, I have Cozy Blanket on here as well. It's really nice. It's probably one of the best retopology tools I've ever used. It's really nice. I don't know if I have one ready to go to load in here. I'll have to demo Cozy Blanket on a live stream some other time, but yeah, I really like it because then you can bake maps in it. You can do your UVs, you can do the retopology, the whole thing on your iPad, for crying out loud. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I need to get rid of some of these. But anyway, back to where we started with Maleficent. I kind of went on a sidetrack on that one. Okay, I'm just gonna grab these eyes and subdivide them up. And then paint. I think I might want to paint. So Chrissy, her eyes are very specific because they don't have pupils. And this one is just pupils, but most of her eyes are pupilless. So I was going to try and do an ode to Chrissy's style with this one and do kind of a purple to green eye on here and see if I can pull it off. Let's see. What did that do? Okay. So turn that metalness way down. And you can fill your object with one of these. So if you just want to fill it with roughness, you can turn the metalness and color off and just change the roughness of your object. Or turn the roughness off and just have metalness turned on, or just color. So you can do it without affecting anything. So for this one, I don't want to affect the roughness. I want it to be the same as the actual eye itself. So I'm just going to affect the color. And it's really nice because it gives you a preview of the color on the object without filling it first. So I can go pretty dark purple with this. And then you can change you can also load up different alphas for your brushes in here. I need a solid round. I'll just turn alpha off for a minute. See if I can get it round. Yeah, kind of. I think a stamp would work better. A click and drag stamp. I want to turn off lazy mouse. You can go into the brush settings and then stroke and this, it's called lazy rope stabilizer. You can turn it completely off. And you can turn your stroke spacing down too. Is this on a layer? Yeah. too big now. It's looking weird. But then I can soften this by using one of these other alphas. Turn the intensity down. And then grab kind of this, like a green color maybe. Yellow-green. Something like that. I'm actually going to put it on a new layer. And then I can tune it. Like, I can turn that layer down so it's not so sharp or not so bright. And this character, I'm not a fan of it yet. It's still in the valley of the suck. Did you do the muzzle like on Maxon yesterday? I did. Yep, I did. It's funny you say that because I fixed it after the live stream. I went in and it was bugging me, so I had to go in and fix it. And I'll probably do the same thing with this one. Sometimes I have to focus not live streaming to figure out like what's wrong with it and dial it in. And yeah, so sometimes I can't always do it on the live stream like this. There's something. This one's got a lot of issues that I need to work out. It's not quite there yet. I'll just save it. Okay. But I think I'm going to end the stream there today, guys. I just wanted to hop on and kind of show you some tips and tricks. And keep the live stream going on my own channel. And do you guys prefer lives? Well, you're here watching me live, so it's kind of a biased question, but do you guys prefer live streaming, or do you prefer like pre-recorded short edited videos? Like if I'm going to teach you about that symmetry stuff I showed you earlier. I'm just wondering what you prefer. And did I miss any questions? Thanks, Brad. Yeah, no worries. Yep. You are welcome. Thanks for hanging out. What's easier for me? I don't know, actually, because I'll tell you this. When I'm live streaming, I don't feel like I have to have it perfect. Because I'm live, I can't, there's nothing that I can do to like fix it. I can edit it later and re-upload it, I guess. But so I don't if I'm recording it myself, it feels like I have to make it perfect. But that being said, I can hone it down to just one. I can hone it down to just one thing. Like I can say, I'm going to teach you symmetry in this one video, and then just teach it, and that's it, right? So for the end user, I would think that that would work pretty well. I want to see what you talk over the Space Girl looks like for that. I don't know that I would do that again. Because that Space Girl took me about, here, I'll open it up. It took me about 7 hours to sculpt this up. And then I sped it up to about 3 hours. And now I'm going back and talking over it. Well, it looks like my internet's having some issues. Anyway, I'm going back and talking over it, and then I'm going to release that on the Patreon channel. So if you want to watch that, you can. But I'm going through and I'm explaining what I did again, and I'm kind of torn. I'm trying to figure out what's going to work best. So anyway, yeah, Tiago, I might do both. We'll see. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for the feedback, and thanks for hanging out and watching today. I plan on doing a whole bunch more like this. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you probably Monday when I live stream again, or as always in the Discord channel if you're a student. So we'll see you over there. All right.